to my mind, urbanization will be a very key determinant of India's future. Because cities account for, globally if you look at it, cities account for just 3% of the earth land mass. They account almost for about 58% of the total population living are in cities. But cities account for almost 80% of the CO2 emissions, but they account for almost 90% of the global wealth that is being created. Therefore, cities are very important from the viewpoint of creativity, innovation, growth, and if India's challenge is to grow from 7.5% to 9% or 10% over a 3-decade period and create jobs for a very young population, cities will have to be the key driver of growth. You know, prior to independence, Rajendra Prasad had been a mayor of Patna city, C. Rajgopalachari had been a mayor, Motilal Nehru had been a mayor. So politicians were mayors of cities and they had a concept of cities. But post-independence, India went by our founding fathers' dream that India lives in its villages, and actually India did not have any scheme for urban areas till the Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission came. There was not even a single scheme. So wherever urbanization has happened, it has happened by default. But in the next 3 decades, we are going to add about 350 million people to urbanize. By 2030, we're going to add 350 million people into the process of urbanization. If you go by the latest McKinsey study, by 2050 we'll add 700 million people to the process of urbanization. Now, as I speak here today, every minute we are adding 30 people. Every minute 30 people are moving from rural areas to urban areas. And if what McKinsey says is going to be correct, 700 million people, the challenge is that we have to create, India has to create 2.5 Americas by 2050. That is the challenge. And the challenge is there because when America created cities, or when Europe created cities, land, gas and water were all cheaply available. So America had unique luxury. You could live in New Jersey, travel to New York, guzzle gas. You could create cities like Atlanta where 98.9% of the people travel by cars. And America actually created cities for cars, not for people. And actually American car companies bought over the railway companies and destroyed railway companies so that cars could sell. I mean, this is the real story of urbanization. So American cities are all made for cars, not for people. I mean, this is the real story. But the challenge when we talk about smart cities, what is a smart city? Actually, the smart city model has been driven by companies like IBM, Cisco, etc. Whether you call it smart city, or whether you call it intelligent city, or whether you call it smart and ubiquitous cities, they're all being driven by a model. And if you go to Korea, it's being driven actually by telecom companies. So it's a business model of the digital world today. That how are you going to use digital technology to drive revenues for many companies? We must understand this very clearly. And to my mind, the imprint of ICT technology on urbanization is necessary. It's imperative. Because India has to use technology to leapfrog. It's very essential. But India's challenges are many more. And India's challenges are many more because you can't have a smart city without sewage. You can't have a smart city without public transportation. To my mind, a smart city is about very smart. You can't do smart cities without public transportation. So you need sewage, you need public transportation, you need clean water, drinking water, you need, these are essential components to my mind. But foremost to my mind is that you can't do urbanization without clearly understanding that the process of urbanization requires a process of monetization of land values. And why urbanization scientifically has not happened in India is because, and if you look at 2 examples of close to Delhi, one is Noida, the other is Gurgaon. Both places we've urbanized over the last 3 decades. In one side, the upsides of urbanization, the land monetization values have gone to politicians. On the other side, they've gone to builders. And therefore, you've created cities. One side, you created the trunks infrastructure, but you've not had very good, unique urbanization, because upsides of that, some very creative officers who were posted as CEO went and created really good infrastructure in Noida, Greater Noida. But the upsides of that revenue were captured by political parties. That hard work which was done in terms, the upsides when it went up were captured by political parties. On the other side, you did not create trunk infrastructure, and the land values, the monetization values of that were captured by developers. Now, in India, to my mind, it's not possible to do urbanization till you do not capture the upsides of revenues, because you can't do more and more and more and more of urban infrastructure till those upsides are not captured and put back to create good quality trunk infrastructure. That is drainage, sewage, solid waste. That is the crux. And to bring in public transportation. And this, to my mind, is the crux. We must understand that the crux is urbanization across the world, wherever it has succeeded and it has happened, is because monetization of land values have been put back into that city. And without our ability to put back monetization of land values into that city, you can never do good scientific urbanization. And this requires, basically, to my mind, this required a very clear clarity of mind that whatever money government puts in and creates infrastructure will lead to rise of land values. And when those land values rise, the upsides of that should not be captured by builders or by political parties, but must come back to the city. That is the crux. And that, to my mind, is the crux of the whole thing. Now, what does the smart city mean, to my mind, in the Indian context? In the Indian context, I think first and foremost, the city, there are huge lessons of smart cities across the world. And many of those lessons don't come from the western part of the world. They come from the eastern part of the world. To my mind, the days of sprawling cities are all over. The world needs compact, dense urbanization. And the best example of this compact, dense urbanization on the back of public transportation, many of these lessons come from the eastern part of the world. Singapore is a great, great example of how to manage water. How water has been recycled, how dual piping has been done, how water has been priced, and how the pricing of water has enabled that city to survive. And how a lot of wastewater is today being recycled to an extent of great human consumption. Almost 9 to 10% of the water is wastewater, which is used for human consumption. And therefore, Singapore, which ran out of its treaty at one point of time, one treaty in 2011 and the other was to run out in 2060, forced its way into better management of water, and there's a huge lesson to be learned from there. I think great example of waste management is the city of Yokohama, where a young lady mayor was able to reduce waste by almost 39%. Segregation at household levels, better management, waste there. And a great smart city, to my mind, is the city of Kitakyushu in Japan, where almost, that city in 70 drove the industrialization of Japan. So cement factories came in, power factories came in. The Tokai Bay on which it was based became yellow from blue. From blue it became yellow. The women rose in revolt, and the Japanese women actually led a movement for smarter urbanization. The word smart, IBM hadn't evolved a concept of smart urbanization then, because they hadn't realized that there were great revenue streams in urbanization then. But to my mind, Kitakyushu was a great movement of smart city, because today if you go to Kitakyushu, everything is recycled. Everything from telephone to cars to mobiles, to everything is recycled. So it's a great example. Public transportation, Curitiba is a great example where within 3 minutes you'll get a public transportation. Every single person gets public transportation. So as we go along, and these 3 cities which are being done with help from the American government, it's important to understand that you can't get a smart city right till you don't plan out a city well. Till you are not able to design the city right. And the planning and designing of the city it's necessary to do compact, dense planning. It's necessary to build in public transportation right in the beginning. It's important to build in concept of recycling of water and waste right in the beginning. And therefore, to my mind, all these essential components in the Indian concept will be very different from the Western concept. And we as Indians must realize that for us, the concept of smartness will be very different from the concept of smartness from IBM or the concept of smartness from Cisco. And therefore, while using digital technology to leapfrog is essential, embedding that city with digital technology is one component of it. You can't have cities which are full of garbage, which are full of waste, which are full of not being able to drink water, to expect them to have digital technology. So I think first and foremost, ensure that there is public transportation, ensure that there is better sewage management, ensure that there is recycling of water, and then embed them with digital technology. That is the key. So I've always envisaged a city which are well planned, which is well designed, which has these basic inherent components, and then has digital technology. And lastly, no city can be smart. No city can be smart till Indians do not become smart. A smart city is about smart people. And in India, we talk about urbanization, we talk about smartness as if the government will make a city smart. It's not possible. We throw litter, we throw waste, and expect that the city to become smart. It's not feasible. And to my mind, at the end of the day, in these three cities which are being driven by these two great experts, it's important that there is a huge amount of public movement. It's the citizen response to that, and the citizens' ownership of this movement towards building smart cities in Ajmer, Allahabad, and Visakhapatnam. All three must actually evolve with citizens' participation. And therefore, I would just turn to this great Indian poet of the 14th century. He was a Muslim. He wrote in Persian language. His ancestry was Turkish. And that was Amir Khusro writing of Delhi city in the 14th century. And that time Delhi was at its peak. And Delhi was one of the greatest cities of the world at that point of time. And he said, so it was a Muslim who was not an Indian, but he counted himself, his ancestry was Turkish, writing in Persian, but he said that Delhi was one of the greatest cities in the world, and he said that he was so proud to live in Delhi, to have India as his motherland, to live and flourish in Delhi of that period of 14th century. And he said how exhilarating is the atmosphere of Delhi. There cannot be a better city than this, because any foreigner comes by, the people of Delhi will teach him how to smile like a flower and make him flourish as a great human being. But what he was trying to imply was that the city was great because of the people of Delhi. And therefore, it's essential that in all these three cities, while we plan them to be smart, and it's necessary that the people's and citizens' participation, along with many other things that I've said about monetization of land values, about public transportation, about planning, design, recycling of water, they become inherent necessary component. But the people's participation, a successful smart city can never be a city without people's participation and people being smart. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.